Mark, a middle-aged man, begins his day like any other, waking early and moving through his usual morning routine. From his window, he notices a man in a nearby building slamming his own window, as if he is trapped inside. As Mark continues getting ready, he realizes something is wrong. The water and electricity in his apartment are completely out, yet he forces himself to prepare for work as usual. When he tries to leave, he discovers that the front door will not open. It has been sealed from the outside, and at the same moment his phone service cuts off. Searching for another exit, he checks the windows, but they are sealed and cannot be opened. From his apartment, he notices people in the building across from him hitting their windows and trying to call for help. He also spots several individuals in protective suits walking around the area. Ignoring this, he picks up a hammer and tries to break the door open, but he only manages to injure his hand badly. He rushes to help himself and starts applying aid to his hand. Without warning, the wall of his apartment breaks open as someone forces their way through from the next unit. Sergey, a short-tempered young man, enters with his younger brother, Nico. Sergey examines Mark's windows and realizes that Mark is trapped the same way he is. A moment later, their neighbors Sally and Aiden also enter through the broken wall. They all come to the conclusion that someone must have blocked the entire floor from the outside. Aiden, who works for the government, becomes extremely worried and believes something serious is about to unfold. He tries to call for help again, but nothing works.
Or at least the unelected corporations who control it. There's been chatter online for months if you knew where to look.
The apartment radio suddenly turns on. A voice tells everyone to stay calm while medical teams work to get the situation under control. This only increases the group's fear. Sally then offers to treat Mark's injured hand with ointment while they talk briefly. Mark then remembers his elderly neighbor Enid and immediately asks Sergey to break the wall to her apartment. Once inside, they find her on the floor unconscious, but luckily she is only asleep.
Still, look, if you can hear me, just give me... Yeah!
Later, the group waits near the window to figure out what is happening outside. They see workers in protective suits setting up temporary medical tents in the neighborhood. The radio turns on again and claims that a toxic gas leak has occurred, telling everyone to remain indoors. Aiden refuses to believe the explanation and thinks something more dangerous is being hidden. Mark also sees medical workers spraying disinfectant around the building and escorting people who seem infected to a nearby camp. Suddenly, they witness a man outside trying to escape. Before he can run far, he is shot by a sniper, shocking everyone who is watching from their windows. The group realizes that those people are dangerous.
Go on, my son!
Soon after, workers in protective suits begin forcing their way into nearby apartments. Anyone who refuses to follow their instructions is dragged outside. Watching this happen makes Mark and the others realize that the medical teams could reach their unit at any moment. They start discussing different ways to break the door and get out before that happens.
We can't just sit here and wait for them. We've got to get out.
After thinking for a while, Mark remembers that he keeps some strong chemicals in his apartment that might weaken the sealant on the door. The group searches the place until they locate the chemicals. Mark mixes the chemicals together and creates a solution, then pours it along the bottom edge of the front door. The sealant softens almost immediately, giving off an unpleasant smell, and with a hard push from everyone, the door opens at last. With the exit now unlocked, they begin working on a plan to reach safety without being noticed. They know they must avoid the sniper positioned on the roof. However, their planning stops when Enid realizes that Nico is no longer with them. Everyone abandons the discussion and starts searching for the boy.
Mama, okay? I just want to know where my husband...
Nico, frightened and hiding, has crawled through an air vent. He ends up on the floor below, where he sees two workers in protective suits trying to convince a woman to go with them. They inject her with a sedative, but she suddenly begins coughing heavily and collapses, suggesting that something dangerous is in the air.
Hold on, I'm going to pull you up, okay? You got it?
Mark and Sergey eventually find Nico and throw a makeshift rope into the vent to pull him out. Before the boy can grab it, the suited workers hear the sound, find Nico, and drag him away. Terrified for his brother, Sergey grabs a baseball bat and rushes downstairs, with Mark close behind him. The two quickly reach the suited staff. In a burst of anger, Sergey strikes one of them, beating him heavily, and the man dies instantly. Sergey then grabs the other worker, a woman, and tries to attack her. With Mark's interference, they force her back to their apartment. Sally searches through the woman's belongings and finds a couple of smoke grenades, which makes her even more suspicious about what is really happening.
That's tear gas.
Oh no.
Mark tries asking the woman questions, but Sergei drags her to the window and holds her up with a message that says, "We have one of you." After tying her up, Mark speaks to her more calmly and asks what is going on. She identifies herself as Hazel and says they are here to help people. When Mark tries to remove her protective suit, she becomes scared and refuses to let him touch it, begging him to not take it off.
She's wearing it to protect her from us.
Mark realizes the workers were protecting themselves from the people in the apartments, and he becomes convinced that something in their building has been contaminated with a dangerous infection. He threatens Hazel, pushing her to explain the full situation, and with her safety at risk, she finally starts revealing details. She explains that the entire neighborhood has been exposed to a lethal virus that can kill within minutes. The symptoms include severe coughing, trouble breathing, and even temporary blindness in its final stages. Scientists have been working nonstop to create a cure, but so far nothing has succeeded.
They told us to isolate infected areas, run tests and...
Mark asks why all communication networks have been shut off. Hazel explains that the government does not want the public to know about the virus because widespread panic would make controlling the outbreak far more difficult. She also adds that everyone inside the apartment has an equal chance of being infected, since the virus is transmitted through the air.
It can be fast, but it's never painless.
But you have a vaccine.
Hearing this again sends Sergei into a rage. He grabs a knife and cuts off Hazel's protective suit. Scared, Hazel reaches into her pocket for an injection, but before she can use it, Sergei takes it from her and keeps it. The group stares at her while she explains that the vaccine is still experimental and may not work at all. She insists that the safest option is to stay inside until the authorities manage the situation.
Your best chance of survival is to stay inside.
Later that night, while the group discusses possible escape plans, Hazel quietly slips her hand out of the zip tie and tries to run. Before she gets far, Sergei tackles her and starts beating her. Mark steps in to stop him, but Sergei turns on him instead. The fight only ends when Sergei accidentally hits Nico, causing the child to cry. Soon after, the group notices an angry crowd approaching the building. It seems that these people also want to confront Hazel and learn what is happening. The crowd believes that Hazel has the vaccine. By this point, most of the suited workers have either been killed or chased off. Hazel, terrified, warns the group not to let the crowd inside, since they might be infected. The warning alarms everyone, and they quickly block the door with heavy woods. The crowd reaches the entrance and begins pounding on it. The group asks the crowd to calm down, telling them they are going to help them. When Sally moves closer and tries to calm them, someone throws a broken piece of glass that cuts her neck, injuring her severely. As the situation becomes worse, Sergei throws a smoke grenade toward the crowd, and they drag Sally back into the apartment. Hazel asks the group to free her so that she can help Sally. The group frees her, and Hazel attempts to save her. But unfortunately, Sally has already lost too much blood. Causing her to pass away, Sally's death devastates the group, especially Aiden, who breaks down and walks into the next room. After the group lies Sally's body in a bed, they start searching for Aiden but cannot find him anywhere. They soon realize he has already escaped the apartment. While wearing Hazel's protective suit, Aiden injects himself with Hazel's vaccine and makes his way out of the apartment. When he reaches the outside area, several residents mistake him for one of the medical workers and immediately surround him. They demand vaccines and start attacking him. A warning shot from the rooftop sniper sends most people running, but Aiden does not get away. Even with the suit on, he is identified as an infected person and is shot dead. Inside, the group watches Aiden get killed from the window. Sergei checks the hallway and sees a crowd of residents rushing toward their unit. He tells the remaining group to leave the room immediately. Mark, however, refuses to leave Hazel tied up and tries to free her. Before he can, Sergei hits him on the head with a bat and knocks him out, leaving Hazel and him defenseless. Sergei, Nico, and Enid make their way to the other rooms, leaving Hazel and Mark behind. Sometime later, Mark wakes up and realizes he is alone. He quickly goes searching for Nico and the others. Through a window, he spots two workers in protective gear, preparing to release toxic gas around the building. Soon after, he finds the group and angrily attacks Sergei for knocking him unconscious. He nearly strangles him, but Enid steps in and calms him. The toxic gas is then released throughout the area, forcing everyone to run toward the rooftop. On the way, Mark sees Hazel's bruised, lifeless body with the same note Sergei wrote for her officials. And he grows sad, but he keeps moving. A surviving resident approaches Sergei for help, and Sergei responds with extreme violence. He beats the man until other residents overpower him and restrain him. Sergei calls out to Mark for help, but Mark cannot do anything, so he shuts the door and continues toward the stairs. After a struggle through the building, Mark manages to guide Enid and Nico to the roof. For the first time in hours, they can breathe fresh air. Mark and Enid share the last remaining cigarettes they found, and they decide to rest there. By morning, Mark wakes up and tries to get Enid moving, but she does not respond. She has passed away during the night.
She'll catch us up later.
Now left only with young Nico, Mark knows he must protect him at all costs. He tells the boy to close his eyes and pretend he is playing a game. Mark lifts Nico onto his back and carries him downstairs. Along the way, he passes many dead bodies, which leaves him shaken, but he keeps going. His determination pays off when he and Nico finally manage to escape the building. Mark looks for help, but no one is around. Even the quarantine camps nearby have been abandoned. Suddenly, he hears a broadcast repeating the instruction for everyone to remain indoors. It warns that anyone seen outside, unless they are part of the medical teams, will be arrested.
Did you hear that?
Mark puts on a protective suit and continues moving through the area with Nico. A short time later, a man from the opposite building confronts them. He mistakes Mark for one of the workers in protective gear. The man explains that his wife died from the virus and that officials took his daughter away. Overcome with grief, he grabs Nico and holds a sharp piece of glass, trying to take the child from Mark, saying that he is now going to protect him. Mark tries to convince him that he is just a civilian, but the man refuses to believe him.
I told you it's not safe! Nico, run!
Nico manages to slip out of the man's grip, but Mark is not as lucky. The man stabs him in the stomach, leaving him badly wounded. Nico helps him walk, and the two slowly move away, while the attacker realizes he made a mistake. They eventually reach a nearby park, where Mark sits on a swing. He hands Nico his phone and tells him to make a call to a woman called Karen once there is a signal. The boy, unaware that Mark is dying, tries to help him stand. Mark instead pretends he is only tired and says he will join him. After resting for a moment, Nico believes this and continues walking, while Mark sits there injured.
I'll be right behind you.
After a while, Nico is found by a pair of workers in protective suits who sedate him. When he wakes, he is surrounded by a group of children around his age. A little girl beside him quietly hands him a gift, a small gesture meant to comfort him. He then looks at a picture of Mark and another woman with a child. One of the workers assures him that things will be all right. In the end, Nico holds Mark's phone in his hands, staring at the screen as he wonders whether he should make the call.